So I've never done one of these videos before. If you can't tell, I have quite a few YouTube videos. None of them I'm actually ever talking, so this is my first how-to video. Today we will be doing a 1998 Lexus GS300, the rear torsion bushings that are in the rear knuckles. I've seen a bunch of videos, some of them are very vague. They don't really explain to you what you need to do, what tools to use. They all show them starting on it and finishing, so nothing in between. So this is my car that we're working on. I realized I didn't give you a picture of what we're actually working on. So this is my little beater Lexus. I'm lucky enough that my boss allowed me to use the shop where I work at to do this work, as it's currently 17 degrees outside. So that's no fun. You will need some pretty basic hand tools. As I use the tool, I will tell you which tool I used. Of course, you need a jack and a jack stand. I'm only going to be doing one side at a time, and I'm also going to be doing brake pads. So I will show you what I used, and hopefully it'll work for you. These are the first tools that we need, and this is going to be very vehicle specific, as I have aftermarket wheels and lug nuts on my vehicle. First off, if you don't have one of these, you don't have to have fancy tools to do this. These were 1/2-inch sockets, pretty thorough kit, purchased off Amazon for around 40 to 50 bucks right before Christmas. I do own Matco and Snap-on 1/2-inch tools. These are just my go-to. If I lose one of these, I don't really care. Matco and Snap-on, if I lose one of those, it's going to hurt my pocket, and they don't come around every week, so better break these or lose these than the expensive ones. I'm using Snap-on 1/2-inch ratchet and a 13/16 socket with my tuner lug nut tool. And just going to break these loose. I will be using an impact gun to take them off, but I like to break them loose on the ground. This is the tool I'm using. It's just a normal run-of-the-mill ball joint tool. I actually don't own one of these yet. It's on the list of things to buy. This one I rented from O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think it was like 160 bucks. You do get a full refund if you return it. So I rented it last night. I'll return it after I get done this afternoon. I'm going to go back on my card, no worries. So I do have it jacked up. I like to use the rear tow hook. I know some of you don't. I use it there, and then I have the jack stand on the spot where you normally jack the vehicle from. And I like to leave it supported by both just for a little extra safety. Like I said, you don't have to use fancy tools. I am using, of course, my Amazon socket set. And this thing I love. It's a Snap-on 1/2-inch brushless impact wrench. It charges really fast. I did get a really good deal because it's white, but it's really hard to keep clean. The tires are absolutely shot. I do have a new set. The reason these are so bad is because those bushings are bad. And when I'm driving, the tire is doing this on the road. So it has to absolutely kill the tire. Luckily, I have a new set at home that I will have installed as soon as I get this done. Okay, so first of all, we have I believe this is a camber adjustment bolt. So typically you'd want to mark it where it's at so that it goes back in the same spot. This car 100% needs an alignment, so I'll try to align it when I put it back in. I can tell right now from looking at it that it is nowhere near where it needs to be. So I'm just going to take mine out. Also, you have to remove the little strut bolt and the sway bar end link. Actually, I lied. You don't need anything to hold on the other side, as the bolt is square, so it won't really move. So that should give us enough room there. I'm going to show you how I am going to do this, and it's not going to be the same way that everybody else is probably going to. So it was an absolute nightmare to get that out. The ball joint tool I rented really isn't long enough. If it was like an inch longer, wider, it would have been perfect. So I had to learn how to take this one out. And so now I can show you on the other side how to take it out. On this side, I'm going to show you how to put it back in. I am going to do this kind of an unorthodox way. So let me show you what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to use a 30mm socket. Don't know what brand this is, don't know where I got it, but it's the perfect outside diameter of this new torsion bushing. I'm going to try to feed the rubber part down into this socket so that I don't tear it when I press it in. Otherwise, kind of backtracking. I may even take this rubber boot off. I may do that. Let me take this rubber boot off. Okay, so I was able to get the rubber boot off. I have it right here. I'm going to set it, save it. On these torsion bushings, there is a beveled side and a straight side. On this vehicle, I noticed the bevel side goes on the front, towards the front of the vehicle, and the flat side goes on the back side of the vehicle. So now with that rubber bushing off of there, and if you do decide to do like I do and take it off, be very careful. You don't want to rip the boot. I'm going to put just a little bit of lube on this and to help it slide in. Also, on the hole itself, I used a drill with a sanding pad. Just stuck it in there. Just gave it a good, knock the rust off. You don't want to make the hole bigger. Just knock the rust off. Okay, so bushing has a little lube on it, as you watched me about put it in backwards. Now becomes, this is not what you're supposed to do. If you use the Riley's tool like this, or any tool you rent, and you damage it, that is not my fault. So I'm just going to hook the open end on the back. And the reason it shouldn't matter is I'm not pressing this all the way like through the other side, so it can be kind of just holding it on the other side. So I put my 30mm socket onto the bushing, tighten this end piece up till I get a little bit of pressure, then I can set it where I kind of want it and start torquing on it. So loosen it up. It's going to fall loose. I'm going to just remove it, take a peek, make sure I'm not hurting anything. Kind of running into the same thing as I did on the back side. I do not want to damage that bushing. Maybe I should have taken both sides off. But, okay. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I am able to knock it in with just a hammer. I'm almost home. I'm almost there. I don't think that's the ideal way to do that. I've never seen anyone do it that way, but it's working. I guess as long as it's flush, it doesn't really matter. It's flush in there, and it's flush on the back side. So as you saw, kind of an orthodox way to do that. It did work. Did not damage anything. I do have to figure out how to get this back on. Okay, let me get my little needle tool and push the backside on. I just need to get that lined up with that hole. There we go. So, not as hard as I thought. Now we can get the rest of these lined up. And get everything tightened up. Whoop. Well, I can still see, so. No more movement in that arm. Before, there was a ton of movement, and he was tearing my tires to pieces. No movement at all now. Let's tighten the rest of these. So I'm gonna go back and just give the nuts a little snug, as I do not want them coming off. Like I said, I don't plan on driving this car until I get it aligned. I do have to take the car home, which is just a few miles, so, and then that's a few miles to the alignment shop. So, just a little snug on those, just to make sure everything's good. There we go. Like I said, not the correct way, but it works. Now you take a little brushy, make sure you just kind of sand her out. Do that wrong, or too far, I should say. So that did come off. I hate to reuse that, but I boo-booed. So, because I boo-booed, that bushing is in tight. So let's put this side back together. So as you know, there's a million different videos of people on how to do this. Most people crack the bleeder screw loose. That is not what I'm going to do. I am actually taking some of the brake fluid out of the master cylinder, so when I do push these back in, there's room up there for the fluid to come into, and I don't have to re-bleed these. I am by myself, and I do not have my speed bleeder with me. So let's get this apart. Not what this is for. This is a snap-on radiator hose tool, but we are going to use it to break the hardware loose, as it is holding the pin in, and I cannot get it to pull out until I get that hardware off of the pin, which doesn't sound like a big ordeal. There it goes. That can be. Okay, so the pin is out, hardware is off, and here's where there's different ways to do this. I am going to do it the way I am comfortable doing it. So that pad actually isn't bad. It has a little uneven wear, but it isn't going to hurt it to replace it. Actually, there is quite a bit of difference. I guess they were probably a quarter of the way worn. Not horrible. It's not going to hurt to put them on. They were cheap. I think they were $20-something with hardware, with new hardware. Okay, so now I'm going to push the caliper back in. And like I said, tons of different ways people do this. I'm just going to do the way I like to do them. Is just pushing on them. So that one's going back in, no problem. Just give it a little budge, stick the pad back in it, and kind of use the pad to protect, so you don't, not that I think you would. Oh yeah. So once it's all the way in, you've got to actually do this on both sides. It's kind of a strange caliper design. You do have an inside and an outside. So we'll do both sides. Put the pad back in it. Finish it. I know that they make a dual piston press tool. I do actually own one. Like I said, I'm at my shop, and I did not bring it. An inside and an outside. So we can slide these bad boys in, just like so. Now, mine did not have, supposed to have a little clip. This guy, the ones I took off did not have it. We will be putting it back on. I am, however, got to remember how it goes back on. 1 second, I gotta look at a diagram. Okay, so I figured how that goes in. And it actually goes in after the locking pin and before that. So we will reinstall the locking pin. This actually So let's try this again. These might actually go in before the pin. Okay, so we push that in, push that down. There we go. Now I did realize that my locking pin does not have the safety clip on the back of it. So I will have to figure something out there to hold that in. So now that anti-rattle clip is in there, now we can stick this one in there. It just slides up and under. Then you use whatever you can. I'm using my radiator tool to push this down and in. And this may not be super easy to do, as I'm sure there's a better way to do it than what I'm attempting to do. But I'm not at home where I have access to all my tools, so I'm having to make do with what I have here. I actually don't do mechanic work for a living. I am a car audio installer. If you didn't know, some of you knew that, some of you don't. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the only reason I'm even making this video is because I have friends of mine that have told me for years, you work on so many vehicles, why don't you make YouTube videos about it? I do buy and sell a lot of cool cars, kind of like a hobby. Don't make any money doing it, but it is fun. I believe that is assembled correctly, so we are going to put it back together and put the wheel back on.